All right, kids, here we go. So today I'm going to do a quick little addendum on the video that I did on how to make an MXF multi-channel file. Most of you have been able to follow this no problem, but I have noticed in the last week alone, I've gotten probably 3 or 4 people going, oh my God, I'm having problems with the audio. I did go through it in the video, but I went a little fast. So one of the things that I've noticed is that because this keeps coming up, instead of me answering every single time, it's probably a lot easier for me to just show you. Because one of the things that you have to do if you're having difficulties with the audio routing properly, you actually have to tell it to route the tracks ahead of time, and you don't actually have to worry about it so much in the export. You just have to confirm. So I'm going to show you how to do that properly. So we're going to go File, New, and we are just going to make another sequence. Presumably you have your sequence already, but if you didn't set it up right, you are going to need to set it up again. So I've created a new sequence, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to tracks. Now I did go over this. In the video, but I'm just doing it again just so that you're not getting lost and trying to figure out where it is you need to go. So I'm just going to delete all these. Okay, so this is very, very important. The video tracks are not that important, but the way that you set up your audio tracks are, because this is basically what makes everything work. And I did go through this, but this is important. So you're going to click on this toggle. Right now mine is set to stereo, which I don't want. I want it to be multi-channel. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the number of channels to 8. So I'm just doing that toggle right there. Okay, so this is extremely important. Now that I've made this, I'm just going to make sure that I add my tracks, and these tracks are going to be mono. Now the pan and balance doesn't really matter because that is actually going to wind up being done at master control. So don't freak out once you make your file and it all sounds mono. In fact, the first time that I did this, I was freaking out because I couldn't figure out why it wasn't panning and it wouldn't save the pan. There are some really expensive programs that will do this. Adobe does not, but it doesn't matter because it's handled at the ingest level at the television station. So we're just going to make 8 files. Okay, and these tracks all have to be mono, so you need to make sure they're mono, not standard 5.1 adaptive, blah, 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 none of that. These are just going to be mono files, so that makes sure that everything works properly. So I'm just going to make sure that these are 8 files. Okay, I'm not going to bother with naming them right now, but I am, actually, you know what? I am going to name them because it's going to be a lot easier that way. I'm going to call this 1, 2, actually, there's already here. I'm going to call this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, for broadcast, the way you set up your audio is important. They do need to be mono files. I have a tutorial, which I will link again in the description, how to set up your files in Audition so that if you have stereo files or surround files, that you've set up the stems so that they can route properly, because these do need to be mono files. But as a general rule, if you do not have a surround sound mix, and chances are if you're doing a commercial, you probably don't have a surround sound mix, you probably have a stereo mix. Yes, I know it's not 1992, but you'd be surprised how many things go in with stereo. So this is going to be, so here's our 8 mono channels. We don't need to worry about we don't need to worry about we don't actually need to worry about the pan position. I'm just checking these so that I can see them. It's not necessary. We don't need to worry about the video. So again, mix, multi-channel, number of channels 8, and I've named them. These are all mono channels. Now, this is really important, okay? Your output assignments are very important. And we're going to double check that. But if you forget this, that's okay. You can do it in the mixer. That's what I'm going to show you. This is where people are getting a little screwed up. So your output assignments. So channels 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6. So channels 1 and 2 are going to be, you know what, we're just going to leave that. We don't need to worry about that. We're making it more complicated than we need to. But what we are going to do is, so we're just going to leave that. I'm actually not going to overcomplicate it. So we're going to say okay. So now you can see that I have my 8 tracks here. Now, here's the important part, the really, really important part. And this is where people are getting screwed up. You need to make sure that your audio files are routed correctly. And to do that, you need to actually tell the mixer which is 1 and 2 and which is 7, 8, or which are 7 and 8, I should say. So the way that we're going to do that is we are going to go into the mixer. And that's really important. We want to make sure that we're going into the mixer. So this obviously, I guess, is my sequence 3. So I want my audio track mixer. I'm just going to do that again. So I'm going to click Window, and then I'm going to go down to Audio Track Mixer. Now I have a couple of different timelines open, but the one that I've made specifically for this tutorial is sequence 3. So now you can see this is where people are getting screwed up. If you're having problems, this is where it's happening. And I honestly, I should have gone into more detail with this. So, but that's okay. Here we are. So I apologize for any confusion for not going into this. So you can see that we have all of our files here. A1, A2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So basically the way you want to set it up is you need to have you actually need to route it. So see that there it says 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 1 to 2 on every track. That's wrong. And this is what it's defaulting to. That's why if you're having problems, that's why. So you need to change that. Now A1 and A2 are fine. So right now, this is okay. So we can have 1 to 2. That's okay. And obviously our second track is still going to be 1 to 2. That's okay. We want to change from A3. So A3, we're actually going to change that to 3 to 4. Okay. So now you can see that this has changed to 3 to 4. And I'm going to do the same with channel 4. So see this little thing here? Set track output, this little weird little notey thingy, doodle, whatever the fuck it is. We're going to click that, and then that's how you're going to change it. So we're going to deselect 1 to 2, and we're going to select 3 to 4. So basically what you want is all the way to your 8 tracks, you want track 1 and 2 to be 1 and 2. You want 3 and 4 to be 3 and 4, 5 and 6 to be 5 and 6, and then 7 and 8 to 7 and 8. Seems self-explanatory. I suppose it wasn't self-explanatory enough. So again, I'm going to change. So now 3 to 4 and 3 to 4, and now I'm on 5. So I'm going to change that, and I'm going to make that my 5 to 6, and 5 to 6, and I'm going to make 5 to 6, 5 to 6, and then channels 7 and 8, I'm going to change that to 7 and 8, and again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go 7 and 8. Now, these are routed correctly, so you will not have this problem now. So that's basically how it's done. Now, while I'm here, I am actually going to backpedal a little bit when I set it up, when I said I wasn't going to show it, because it is important that I show it here in the mixer, because it means that you can change it later, because sometimes people miss it and then they forget. So what we're going to do is we are going to not go into sequence settings. We're actually I'm just going to basically do the same thing. I'm going to make another sequence. I'm basically doing the same thing that I did before. I'm just, when I said, you know what, I'm not going to show you, it's too complicated. I am actually going to show you, because I showed you the most important thing that you need to see. So I'm going to change this again to multi-channel, just like I did before. I'm going to change this to 8. This is the fast way, by the way. But I wanted you to kind of see how things were routed and how you can do it so that you understand why they are the way they are. So multi-channel, number of channels 8. And now I'm going to add my tracks. So again, here's my audio track. And I'm going to just do 8 tracks. Okay, so once again, I'm going to take my tracks and I'm just going to rename them. I don't have to rename them, but I do want consistency, just so that it's a little easier to kind of go into it. Okay. So these are all mono. So instead of doing it in the mixer, you can do it here. But I wanted you to see it in the mixer first so that you had context. So you can actually do it here. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So your channel 1, you're going to click on your output assignments, and that's going to be 1 and 2, which is already selected. Right? We're going to do the same. That's the same thing. So again, we're going to do the same thing for the next track. So track 2 is 1 and 2. That's correct. Now we're going to move to track 3, which is here. Output assignments. Aha, see, it's wrong. It wants to do 1 and 2. This is why you're having problems, because you have to tell it. So now that we're on track 3, we're just going to select 3 to 4. And we're going to do the same thing all the way down. So now we're on track 4. It's defaulted to 1 and 2, which is not what we want. We want 3 to 4. And that is now routed correctly. So now we're going to move down to 5, and we're going to change our output assignments. Again, you can see it automatically thinks that we want it 1 to 2. We don't want that. We want it 5 to 6. So that's why everything is routing to the same track, because if you don't tell it to route to the specific track that you want it to, it's just going to put everything on the first 2 tracks, and it'll be wrong. And I realize that this is the issue that people are having. So you actually have to tell it. If you don't tell it what track to route to, it'll just stick it on 1 and 2, which you don't want. You just want 1 and 2 on 1 and 2. So that's why people are having problems, and I apologize for that. So 5 to 6, and then I'm going to go, once again, I'm going to change that, 5 to 6, and then 7 to 8. So I'm going to change that to 7 and 8, and I'm going to change 8 to 7, 8, and there we go. So I'm just doing the exact same thing as I did in the mixer, but I can do it at the beginning of the project. And that's really all it is. So for those of you that have been having difficulty with these files and wondering why it's routing specifically to just 1 and 2 and it's not working properly, that's because you actually have to tell it and set it how to route it. So that's why. So if you do this and you set your output assignments correctly, you won't have a problem. And if you forget to do your output assignments and you go, oh shit, you know, it's 1 and 2, that's okay. You can just, like I say, you can go into the mixer and you can do it here, right? So 1 and 2, 1 and 2 for my first 2 tracks, 3 to 4, that's okay, 3 to 4. So again, it's just 2 different ways to achieve the same thing. So hopefully that helped you. And if you've had issues, that is the one thing that, as I say, I apologize. I should have spent a little bit more time on that, because the first time I did this, and I should have known better, because the first time that I did this, I was tearing my hair out too. And this was 20 years broadcast experience. So, you know, don't beat yourself up. So just do this and you should be good. You should be good to go. And as I say, I will actually put the link to the setting up your audition files so that you can separate them, so that you don't have any problems when you're bringing them in. So if this helped you, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out. And also another plug for Go Nitro is available, and you can see it on CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, and CW stations across the United States. You can also see it 7 days a week in Las Vegas on Fox Vegas and Silver State Sports and Entertainment, which is actually Fox Vegas. It's just 5.2. And you can also watch it on Fox, well, pretty much everywhere, but I'm going to plug Rochester in this case. And so, yeah. So if you have any questions, by all means, please do leave it in the comments. And as I say, if this helped you, please do subscribe. Have a good one.